Go ahead, you're live.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To tonight's zoning meeting, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Alton.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of
Okay.
the United
The
States.
United States of America and to the
to the
republic
republic
for
which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
liberty
Liberty and
and
justice for all.
justice for all.
There's a bit of feedback. Just don't forget to mute your mics if you're not speaking.
We'll do a roll call. Commissioner Alton,
Present.
Commissioner Creighton,
Present.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Present.
Commissioner Reckner, Commissioner Brooks,
Present.
Commissioner Leonetti,
present,
Chairman Morelli.
Presence.
Commissioner Reckner is absent. Case number 2990, application of Stephen Marrow of 20 Bath Street, Lido Beach, New York, and Peter Hamlet of 701 West Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.19C lot area, 9-105.19E front yard, 9-105.19F side yard, 9-105.19G rear yard, 9-1121 off-street parking, for a modification to variance number 2990 for construction of a new house instead of an elevation as originally granted at 12 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 270, lot 509 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Who will introduce a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to grant,
I second it.
Okay, Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Deny.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
grant,
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted. Before we go on to the calendar, there's just a few announcements. Case numbers 3267, Mangelli of 245 Westchester Street will not be heard this evening. And case number 3262, application of Charles Raffamayeri LLC of 355 East Beach Street will not be heard this evening. And there will be no vote on case number 2979, 250 to 258 East Park Avenue Enterprises for 250 East Park. That vote is being adjourned for another month. First case is case number 3271, application of Keith and Nilka McDonald of 433 East Harrison Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.7B height, 9-105.7C front yard, 9-105.7D side yard, for a third floor addition at 433 East Harrison Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 148, lot 54, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
All right, good evening. Are the applicants present in
Yes.
the meeting?
Yes, we are.
Hi.
Okay, good evening, folks.
Good evening.
So I'm going to ask a few questions and I'm going to give you a chance to present the application. So basically, in this application, we're talking about a height that you're indicating a height of about 11 inches above the code.
Correct.
Your front yard, I'm assuming, is 2.25 because of a deck. We'll get to that. And the rear yard, which is supposed to be, well, the two side yards are 5 and 8, and your east side yard is 1.5. Now, is that existing by any sort of previous variance, or how did that side yard come to pass?
The side yard was existing when we purchased the house in 2009, and then we
Okay,
lifted the house in 2013. It got flooded, so we went up lifting it. So that was existing, and it remained the same when we lifted it. The
Okay.
foot remained the same for the side yard. That
Okay.
everything existing except
Well-
for put a deck on the front.
okay. I'm assuming that at some point, looking at the photo, at some point that had to have been the subject of a variance, When was the house originally built? Do you know?
1921.
Okay. So now let's talk about the height variance. The height is going up about 11 to 12 inches because of the addition. So can you just describe the addition for me, please?
Yeah, the addition's gonna be, it's basically following the same exact footprint that we have of the house when we purchased it.
Okay,
Right now, we have an attic space up there, so
okay,
the, we were trying to have a little bit of room, but, to like store some stuff upstairs as far as like
Okay.
extra clothes and Christmas things and whatnot, because of anything underneath the house in case it got flooded, we would have no place to put it. So
Okay.
with that height at 25 feet and 11 3/4 inches would give us, it would give us 4 feet 2 inches, which would be just enough to have a drop ladder and pretty much just
Okay.
crawl in with some storage. Anything
Okay.
shorter than that it would have to come down to almost
Okay.
3 feet, which pretty much would
Is
be.
there any kind of mechanical equipment up there? Do you have any kind of air conditioning stuff up
No.
there or no?
No,
Okay. And now just tell me about the front yard. There's a deck in the front yard, am I correct? And that's what comes out
that's what we used.
to about 2 feet from the property.
Yeah, that's what we use to enter in and out of the house. We don't have any interior stairs.
Okay,
Because the shape of our house is kind of awkward. It's a little bit smaller in the front.
okay,
It's like towards like the kitchen area or whatnot. I guess back in the day, they must have made it a little bit wider. So it's not a square, so we didn't have any room. The house is basically only 1,400 square feet, so it's pretty small. So we had to put our staircase on the outside of the house.
I see.
So in order to us to come up comfortably, we put the deck onto the front of the house to
Okay,
give us a little bit of room to walk up and down.
I see. Okay, yeah, I'm just looking at design, at the design plan, and I see that. Okay. I don't have any other questions right now. Any members of the board?
No.
I think you might consider the roof pitch, but it sounds like you really need the space up there, and it's not too excessive. I
I
don't
mean,
think
it's close, and, 4-foot height,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know what you could even do with it if it was less than that. So I don't know if I would, request to drop the pitch a
Yeah.
little bit. Any
Yeah,
other members of the board?
But I don't think it would make much difference anyway.
Yeah. Any other members? No? Okay, anyone in the audience want to be stepped into the meeting for or against?
There are no, if you want to speak for this particular place, please just use the raise hand feature, and I don't see anybody with their hands raised.
Okay, well, with no one looking to make any kind of comments for or against, I'm going to move to grant the case if somebody wants to second it.
I'll second it.
Case number 3271, application of Keith and Noka McDonald of 433 East Harrison Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.7B height, 9-105.7C front yard, 9-105.7D side yard, for a third floor addition at 433 East Harrison Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 148, lot 54, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant,
Chairman Morelli.
Grant,
This application has been granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome, folks.
Case number 3272, application of Edward J. Crowley and Evelyn Martinez of 42 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard, for a new 3-story house at 42 California Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 265, lot 7, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Diana, are you speaking on behalf of this application?
Yes,
Okay, are your clients on to speak as well?
they were gonna be joining. I haven't heard from them that I can't see anybody else.
Okay.
I'll begin, but I know that they did intend to join, and I haven't heard that they had any problems logging in.
Okay,
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Diana Lespisa with Morano Expediting Services, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 212, Levittown, New York, 11756, here on behalf of the property owner, Edward Crowley. Good evening. We're here before you tonight. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we
'Cause I
can.
Oh, okay, sorry, I can't see any, it looked different. We're here on behalf of the property owners requesting permission to construct a new dwelling on the property. This property had suffered a fire. Previously, there was a home on the property, and back in May, they did have an extensive fire to the house. So the house has since been demolished. It was unable to be repaired due to the severity of the fire. And they're just looking to replace the house with a new 3-story home. Essentially, it will have the sprinklers. It will be lifted to meet the FEMA guidelines. And we're here before you today seeking relief on the height from 23 feet required to, or maximum allowed, to 24 foot 10 inches, which is an 8% relaxation, and also seeking relief from the front yard setback to accommodate the deck in the front yard. I do have some photos of other homes in the area. This is very consistent with the area. The deck itself is going to be set back 1 feet from the front property line, but the beams under it are going to be set back to 3 feet. In regards to the height, the reason for the additional height is really to accommodate having the storage in the attic. And the way the architect kind of designed it was with a hip roof, so it doesn't appear, although there, are many homes within the city that are similar in height, it's actually going to appear to not be as high because of the hip roof. So it kind of softens it from the road if you're looking up at the house. I don't know if the board has any specific questions. There will be parking under the home. And that is it. I do have some photos that I would like to share. If it's possible to share screen, I can share. I do have several photos of other homes in the area with similar heights, similar decks in the front yard that I think would show that kind of what we're proposing is consistent with the neighborhood.
let me see if I can, get Dave.
Are-
to do a
Are they
share
the same
screen.
pictures that are in our package?
Probably not. The pictures in your package are just of the subject property, I think, right?
I think there's some subject property and then there's some actual houses.
There are 2 actual houses.
Oh, usually there is an option to share screen. I'm not seeing it on here.
Hold on, let me see.
Yeah, there's 4 of empty lots and then there's 2 houses.
Oh, those might be, I'm sorry. So those, I believe you guys require.
Those are the
pictures of
neighboring
all the
properties.
buttons.
Those are the neighboring properties. I see it. You can see the lot, empty lot next to it.
Yeah, so those are just the abutting parcels and like directly across the street. The photos that I have are numerous homes along, I mean, I could have driven down every street, but Pennsylvania Avenue, California Avenue, New York Avenue, and it just shows, consistency with what we're looking to achieve here. I could actually scan, I don't know, I do have them saved on a Google Drive to do the share screen. Otherwise, I could email them too if the board would prefer that. But
Yeah, we would have to make you a panelist. Like, according to Dave, we'd have to make you a panelist, so.
oh, can I email them
You can
to?
email them to me. You can email them to me, Diana.
Okay, so I'm gonna do that right now. So that you have them. Let's see, Robin.
These are the pictures of comparing, you're saying, right?
Yes, just to show, the comparison to the community so the board can see that.
Are there pictures in the package we have? I'm looking at pictures right here. Are these the ones you're doing? I mean, just in the interest of time. Oh, this is the property itself.
Those pictures are just what's required to submit the application. And that's just of the subject parcel, which would be the vacant lot, and then the immediately abutting neighbors.
I get it.
I just sent that over to you, Robin.
Okay. Let me see if I can get it.
So that you
How
have-
about directly across the backyard? That's a pretty high house. Do you know how it compares to that?
So that's actually one of the pictures that you'll see. And let me just look at the pictures that you're looking at, because I do keep a copy of everything that I
I
submit.
think right down the property has a house across the backyard and one to the right of it.
Yes, correct. So that house is actually gonna be in the pictures that I just emailed Robin. That is, I believe, 117 or 151 New York Avenue. Hold on. It is 151 New York Avenue. So you'll see that in those pictures. The front of that house, you'll see I have that on there as well. And that's gonna be the house that's directly to the rear.
Is
So
there
it-
parking on the ground floor?
Did you receive those?
I did. I sent them out. I'm trying to share the screen, but they were forwarded to the zoning board members' emails.
okay.
Guys, if you can just take a look at those. and
Oh,
then
okay,
if I can get
perfect.
Google Drive open.
Perfect. So the one that you're referencing that's directly behind the subject parcel, that would be number 151 New York Avenue. And I believe I wrote, not I believe, I know I said behind subject parcel so that you could see that. So it is going to, be very consistent with that house. And these are all homes that are immediately, surrounding the subject property.
All right.
The house we just considered, where we were considering the storage space in the attic, had a 6 and 12 roof. This one is now showing 7 and 12, which probably picks it up close to a foot.
It does, but I didn't see that house. I mean, a lot of the houses, so if you look at actually the house in the rear, the back of that house and even the front of that house, it doesn't have that hip roof to kind of soften the look from the street. So although, we may have picked up a little bit more footage, or an additional foot for that pitch, it kind of aesthetically it softens it a little bit, and really the reason for that is really for, the mechanicals in the attic to be able to service them, and then for, proper drainage purposes. But they did, majority of these other homes don't have that hip roof. And I personally do feel that when you look at it, it doesn't give it the appearance of it being so tall. The height is, I say so tall, but really in percentage wise, as far as the percentage of relaxation, it's 8%. So it's not, I wouldn't necessarily consider it substantial.
Oh, it's 2 feet, 2 feet is,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's substantial.
percentages are great, but, other people seem to be doing with less steep roofs, so.
Especially when this is not a lift or a amendment to an existing.
Yeah.
home you
Mike, I have a
built.
question for you.
I don't like
My
that.
question is that we just talked about, Mr. Spies said about the mechanicals, right? With a 6 on 12, the mechanicals could still fit in there, couldn't they?
I'm not an expert on the mechanicals, but I think so. And again, other people have been,
Yes, it could.
found that adequate.
Barry, Dan, you guys have any opinion on that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it could fit in 6 and 12.
I've got mechanicals under a roof like that.
Under what, 712 or 612?
Six.
I have, yeah, and I have mechanicals on even less than that in a small area. You could.
Okay, well, Mr. Spiza, let me ask you a question. Would your client consider, because you're talking almost 2 feet over the height, you saw the last case was only about 11 inches. Now, if we took a foot off the run and we made it a 612 instead of a 712, you'd be picking up to pretty much where the last case was. And since this is a new construction, there is a little more flexibility on terms of what can be done. I mean, it's not like you're stuck with an existing lift. And so the thing is, would your client consider going to a 612, modifying the design, hip roof or not? Maybe they could even remove the hip roof if they didn't want it. Would they be able to deal with a 6-on-12 to give us about maybe, I don't know, 11 inches over what the code requires and not be going almost 2 feet?
So Mr. Crowley did reach out to me and he is on the Zoom call as well. So I'll ask
Okay.
if you could also let him speak.
Yeah.
I do just, so it's an additional, so the ceiling height, we're dealing with ceiling heights of 8 feet for the grade level, the first floor, second floor ceiling height. So they can't make up that footage there.
No, but the pitch can change. The pitch
No,
on the
no,
roof
I
can
do,
change.
of course, I do understand, and.
And maybe they don't need the hip roof, maybe they can dispense with the hip roof, knock an inch of the run
Yeah,
and make it a 612 instead of a 712. And that'd be probably taking off about 10, 11 inches off the height of the house.
so, and I do just want to point out too, and then I'll let Mr. Crowley, respond to
Okay,
that.
great. Yeah.
The subfloor in the roof, and then the actual to the ridge, to the peak would be 42.8. So it's a difference of 6.6, but the actual headroom in majority of the attic, wouldn't be that high. I'd say maybe like 4 feet. So it would be possibly not ideal for servicing, but I certainly understand, the board's concern. And if you can possibly make Mr. Crowley able to speak and he could, maybe elaborate further on that if
Sure,
possible.
of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could just say, I know it may not be ideal, but you're asking for a variance here. So
No, I understand, and we always respect the board's, comments and concerns. I do understand that. I don't mean that in any negative way.
Diana, is Mr. Crowley on through Zoom, or is he on the phone?
No, he said he's on the Zoom meeting.
Does he have his hand raised?
Just reaching out to him now.
Let's see. Okay, I got you.
Oh, okay.
That's Ed.
Ed.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. How you doing?
Good, how are
So, good. So the question I had for you was, and you, I'm sure heard the conversation. I was going back and forth. The concern is that if we reduce the 712 to a 612, that basically we'd be probably gaining about 10, maybe 11 inches closer to what the code allows. So, clearly the board likes to not have any excess that we don't need. And our question would be, would you be able to deal with a 6-on-12 roof for the installation of your mechanicals rather than a 7-on-12 roof, so that we could tidy this up a little bit by about 10, 11 inches?
If that's the way it's going, I'm forced to go that way. I obviously I would like the way the architect drew it. There had to be a reason. that he had the extra room in the mechanicals up there.
Right.
I'm starting brand new on this, and I just this house, I just didn't want to make mistakes, and all of a sudden I find out, a month into it that the attic would be too small by a few inches, which would be disappointing at that time. But if this is what the board feels, I'm going to go with what they feel.
Mr.
Okay.
Crowley,
Well,
could
thanks.
I ask
Thank you
you-
very much.
Yes.
I don't know how the other board members feel about this. Maybe, get a
I
little
was just gonna ask,
comment from board members on this.
Rocco, if I could ask, when your designer, your architect was working with you, Mr. Crowley, did he let you know that it was gonna need a height variance, and did he suggest any other options in order to build it within code?
The way we talked about it, it was absolutely going to go for a height variance. And I was understood that there was plenty of other houses with the exact same height, and it would give the room to be a useful attic. That's the way I understood it as of tonight. Using, the furnace, the air conditioner, or whatever units up there, and for proper storage, getting up the stairs in a safe manner.
Right, useful is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, a lot of them are the size that we're talking about too, so.
And a lot of the photos, of the other homes that I submitted, I don't know if the board had a chance to review those. They do seem to be very high.
It's impossible really to compare these drawings from, to photos of the other houses without knowing the true dimensions and things like that. We have a set of plans on paper here, and you have pictures. We don't really know exactly how they relate to the other houses, but pictures.
Looking through. There was one that stood out the most. I mean, I know it's, there's no way without having actual plans, construction plans of those specific houses. But I do know that I think the way the house is designed, the way it is on these architectural plans, it will actually appear to be, appear lower than the ones that kind of appear to tower, from the street. But I do, we do take that into consider, take whatever the board's comments, and we appreciate the board's comments.
If I may, hello, Ms. LaSpisa. My name is Joe Lupo. I'm a legal counsel to the board.
Hi.
If I may make a recommend or a suggestion, I keep hearing about, the different mechanicals and servicing the mechanicals in the attic and whatnot. But do we have any dimensions of the mechanicals versus the space in the attic? I mean, do we even know that this could be an issue, or is it just pure speculation at this point? Because I mean, I have to imagine that homes with a 612 or even a 512 pitch, still can have central air conditioning and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we do this? Again, as I said, why don't we let the applicant, we're not going to vote on it tonight. Not much construction's going on right now anyway. We can maybe give him a month to think about whether or not he wants to reduce it and submit an amended plan, or if he wants to just vote next month on the 7-on-12. I mean, I think that, just because there are other buildings on the block that are maybe the same or a little taller, some of them may have been lifts. Again, we're dealing with a new construction. There is definitely more flexibility when you're dealing with a new construction, because with a lift, you're sometimes stuck into what you started out with and now have to lift, so you got to go above the height. The thing is, the applicant can decide whether or not it can, in conjunction with his architect, if they want to leave it as is at 7-12, because they absolutely have to have it. We'll vote on it next month as a 7-on-12. And if he decides that maybe, it's going to work 6-on-12, and they want to submit a letter or an amended plan between now and the next meeting, I would say that would be the smarter way to go. And then we could vote on it next month. I mean, I don't know what the applicant wants to do. That's up to the applicant. But I think that this might be to his advantage. So how do the other board members feel?
Yeah,
Makes sense to me.
Totally
Rocco,
agree.
I would add to what you said too and say that he should talk to his architect and see what he could do to minimize the height variance, minimize it as much as
Yeah.
possible. In that, I mean, our role is not just to either grant or deny a variance, but to do what we can to minimize the impact.
Absolutely. And the thing is, just because there are, and as I said, just because there are other buildings on the block, homes that are the same or maybe a little taller, some of those homes that are a little taller might have been homes that were lifted. And because of the floodplain elevation and the way that they had to be lifted, basically they ended up being as tall or taller because they already started out with a house that was there. And by the time, they piled a foundation and a house on top of it, well, it brought them to that height. I think that there is certainly more flexibility on the part of an architect and a builder on a new construction, and we should take that, as the way it should go.
Yeah, I mean, well, good point. I mean, anything new construction should make every effort to confine to code, and there should be good reason for not.
Absolutely.
I would
Okay.
just ask, if possible, I would just ask that if we can defer back to the property owner. In this case, because this is a fire project, or is the result of a fire, there is a time constraints to get this work completed, and there's only so much that temporary housing insurance covers. So kind of like every month, every day counts. So I would just like to defer back to Mr. Crowley to make sure that that is how he wants to proceed, or would he, agree to tonight, lowering it to the 612. Either way, I just, if possible, I would kind of prefer to him to be able to make that final call.
I don't know if, I mean, Rocco, I don't know if the whole board agrees that a 612 is the only solution, but that's just,
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that I was under the impression that if he did reduce it to 612, that the board would have been satisfied
Well,
with that.
you know
So
what,
that's why I said that.
Dan, I don't want to make the decision for the board. I mean, if the board is not prepared to vote on this tonight, I don't want to seem to be forcing anyone in any direction. So, are there board members that would want to wait, or the board members that would even be prepared to vote on this evening? I'll put it out there. So, it may be the kind of thing where, the applicant, I want to hear what he has to say, but the board may not want to vote on it tonight, so what Mr. Ed, what do you think about the proposals that were put before you in terms of the reduction of the height? Is it something you want to weigh in on tonight?
I would
Leave it up
love
to
to.
Mr. Crowley. We'll hear what he has to say.
Hi, I think I'm speaking now. Thank you, Ms. Relly. I'd love to end this tonight if it's possible, because I have to be moving on with the I'd love to be moving on with the project to get my family back into a house. I absolutely 6 and 12, but I would love to, if you would possibly the rest of the board vote on that tonight, please. That's all I could.
Okay.
ask.
All right. No, we're understood. All right. I'd like to hear from the audience. Does anybody in the audience want to speak for or against? Robin, you could ask anybody to raise hands.
Yeah, let me just check.
right.
Let's see, hold on. Okay, there are no hands raised.
Okay. Well, that,
Oh, wait, hold
being,
on.
and I'll withdraw my motion if nobody wants to vote on it, but I would move to grant it with the condition that the roof pitch be no greater than 6 on 12.
I would second that.
Okay. So if you want to, let's put it to a vote, because we understand the applicant's been, living in housing, temporary housing. So if he would abide by no greater than 6 by 12, the 6 on 12 condition, I would be prepared to vote for a grant.
Okay.
Robin, did you say someone else wanted to talk?
No, I look like someone had their, oh, wait, hold on. If you want to speak on this case, please raise your hand. Let me just see. Okay, hold on, we have. Mr. Puzak, are you calling about this particular case?
Are we allowed to speak for,
On this case, yes.
yeah,
Mr. Crowley?
yeah, honestly, having heard the case.
You have to give your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Laura Romiga. My address is 520 East Chester Street, Long Beach, New York. I don't know. It sounds to me, having lived in Long Beach and seeing the homes and someone building a new home, and to me, it's just going to raise the value of Long Beach. I mean, I know this is regarding, the space, but we have these giant buildings being built on the boardwalk. What's, if this for an extra foot, if I just don't see how that would make, I don't know. I mean, none of the neighbors have chimed in and said, no, we definitely don't want this. I don't know. I think it would be wonderful to allow them to do it and let Long Beach grow and bloom into a beautiful city that it has become, unfortunately, since Sandy, but that has been a reality for a lot of for this city. And I don't know. I'm all for it that he gets to have the beautiful new home he wants to have.
No one's saying he can't have a new beautiful home. It's just that every single community has to agree to what guidelines will maintain its integrity and all the other beautiful things you're talking about.
Right.
And if you start disregarding it, we'll have a random a stream of cases coming here that'll set a precedent that means the codes mean nothing. That's
Right.
Yeah,
Not only
even
that,
with the
there are
slide,
different zones. And, if we're talking about high rises along Broadway and Shore Road, that's one thing. That has its own separate zoning codes. Then this is a residential street in the West End, which already, as we know, is crowded and tall, and that has its own zoning codes. So what is necessarily applicable on, Shore Road is not necessarily applicable on California Street. We have to take that into account. Nobody wants the city not to grow. Nobody wants the city not to look beautiful, but the code is in place for a reason, and we do allow routinely variances. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here tonight. But the question is, when we do allow variances on each individual case, we try to keep the scope of those variances to the minimum, and we try to keep it for not intruding on the rest of the town. And so, yeah, I agree with you, and thank you for the comments. But again, every zone is a little different. And this particular house is on, 30 by 60 in the West End, and it's not on shore. And, the zoning has to be applied differently as per the area.
we're not denying him to build his house, which is going to be very nice. We're just making a little compromise to keep it closer to
keep it closer to the code height. That's all.
Right.
He's still going to build the house. Okay. Any other comments, Robin? I see another hand up. Mr.
Yes,
Marrow's hand is up.
Stephen Marrow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes. Loud and
Hi,
clear.
folks. Nice to see you all again. I hope all is well. I just want to say I and Peter Hamlet own 151 New York Avenue, which is the house that has been mentioned several times this evening. And that was a raised house, and we did not require a height variance. So I agree with the board. I agree with the board that there needs to be a compromise, especially considering that this house would be 2 feet above what is allowed and on a narrow street in the West End. I do think that is a substantial height increase. So I appreciate everything the board's doing, and I'm glad that a homeowner and the board can come to some kind of compromise. I think that's a good thing.
Thanks, Mr. Marrow. Appreciate
So,
it.
Mr. Marrow, can I ask you a question? So do you think that a compromise of a 6 on 12 would not be out of character for you and other neighbors?
Look, I can only say this. I think you're asking for an additional foot in height.
Yep.
Is that what a 6 on 12 means?
No, it would be about that.
Yes. It's a lot. A foot's a lot.
I agree, and it's a new house, new construction.
you know, but,
And yours is big and didn't need a height variance. That's why I'm asking.
no, it didn't. You know, I think I'll leave it to the board's good judgment.
Thank you very much. All right, any other hands raised, please? No. All right, I'm gonna continue on with my original motion. I'm gonna move to grant it with the condition of a 6-on-12 pitch,
No greater than?
no greater than, yeah.
Okay. And Mike, you seconded the motion, correct?
I'm going to continue to second it.
Okay. Case number 3272, application of Edward J. Crowley and Evelyn Martinez of 42 California Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5B height, 9-105.5C front yard, for a new 3-story house at 42 California Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 265, lot 7 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application with conditions. Commissioner Leonetti has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alden,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Creighton,
Deny.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant with conditions.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant with conditions.
This application has been granted with the conditions stated on the record. The roof pitch must be no greater than 6/12.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Case number 3273, application of Joseph and Sarah Mardetsky of 546 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size, to remove the garage and new off-street parking in the front yard at 546 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 23, lot 16, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Let me just want to see. George, are you speaking on behalf of the Mordetskis? I don't see them on here.
Yeah, raise it. He's 530 Westchester.
Good evening, Jessica. Yeah, how are you? Everything went good then, right?
Hello?
Hello?
That's it, I think.
George?
Yeah, hi, Ed. Ed, you need to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, George.
Watch out.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right, so yes, I am speaking on behalf of the case, but let me get started and I guess we'll figure this out. So George Bella from GWB Architect, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 304, Long Beach, New York, 11561. So I'm here as the architect for Sarah and Joe Mordetsky. I'm at my home presenting this case to you. Sarah and Joe are also in attendance. They're in my office with Jennifer, who's the project architect for this project. So we're all here, but we're at different locations. And I'm mentioning that because I would like Sarah to say something at some point during our presentation, but on your system, it may be showing up as Jennifer Watts. I'm not sure. So just giving you a heads up that at some point I'm going to try and.
Hey, George, I'm sorry. Well, we are here. So hi, I'm Sarah Mordetsky. I just want to let you know that we are here in Jen's office. So whenever you want us to talk, just let us know.
Okay. All right. Great. So it sounds like we're all in good shape. So again, I'm the architect for Sarah and Joe, and we're asking for variances for off-street parking in order to be able to convert the existing garage into a bedroom for Sarah's mom. I'm going to ask Sarah, like I said, to chime in after I give you a little bit of the technical information for what we're asking for. So we're asking for for off-street parking. We're asking for off-street parking size. And there's just, to try and keep this quick, there's 2 points that I'd like to make about this application. The first is that we are not really asking to set a precedent. There's a similar house directly across the street from this one that I believe has asked for and received a variance for a similar project where they asked to park in the front yard as well. And probably the next thing I'd like to point out is this application, it's part of a larger renovation. They're going to be doing the kitchen and some other interior modifications that not only help their family, but also address some of the concerns that they have for mom. But it's basically, the application is asking for permission for the Mordetskis to be able to use their driveway in 100% exactly the same way as what they have been using it for the last 10 years that they've owned the house. This spot that we're proposing to park the car is always where they have parked it. I don't believe, to my knowledge, that there's ever been any issue. And in fact, I believe that Sarah had dropped off some neighbors' letters to Robin or someone in the zoning board over the last day or so for the neighbors to be able to show support of this application. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Sarah so that she could chime in a little bit and give you a more personal touch on what they're asking for and why. So with that, are you ready to speak, Sarah?
Yeah, sure. Is there a camera? Do they turn on the camera? Is the camera on?
Your camera. You can use your camera.
Okay, where's your camera? Oh, right there.
No, I don't
Nope.
think so. You might want to just go.
One moment. You want to try to put it on, Deb? Oh yeah, right there. Hold on.
Just, oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you can see my face or not. I'm here. So essentially, me and my husband were doing some renovations in the house, give the kids their own bedroom, but also a main concern for us has become my mom. She moved in with us about 4.5 years ago after some knee surgery, and it became apparent to us that she didn't really have a lot of, like, she shouldn't be driving anymore. And her cognition has declined over the past few years. And so we've had her in an upstairs bedroom, and that has been okay for a while, but now we're more concerned with her stability, her mental stability, being able to find things, like she leaves water on, she just does things that are like, it's becoming apparent that we're having a few more issues. So we had thought when we were doing this renovation, maybe we'd try to go up a little bit for me and Joe, but then it sort of became really obvious that we shouldn't have her on a second floor. And even with we thought maybe we'd do a stair chair, but then she tends to wander at night and we just get really worried, would she be able to use it? Would she understand it after a while? So then our renovation sort of moved into how do we make the house a little more easy for her to stay with us for obviously as long as she could stay with us. We don't know, that's 5 years, 10 years, we have no idea. And then as COVID progressed, we Joe's mother on top of that also, we lost his dad and his mom moved into a place. And so even if we if something does happen to my mom, we always his mom is kind of a person that we would also want to have a place for as well. So we sort of got around the idea of making our renovation more about just accommodating my mom first and foremost, and then acquiring other things to help. We decided to put an ADA circle in the downstairs bathroom and make the shower sort of like a drive-in, just so we're prepared. And there was really no other easy option except to maybe turn our garage into a bedroom. It keeps her safe. It keeps her on the first floor. It keeps her access for wandering at night a little more easy for us to manage and a little less dangerous. And that's kind of where we're at and why we're asking for it. Our parking doesn't really change. We've always parked in front of our house. We park in front of our driveway every day. We have just 2 cars, and we have always parked that way. So we use our garage for storage now. So it doesn't necessarily change the look of our house. We're not asking to change the look of our house. We're just asking to change the back half of our garage into a purposeful space to kind of just have my mom on the first floor and keep her a little safer. And that's, I guess, sort of it for what we're asking.
Okay, so the house is used for, the garage is used for storage now, and you park right where you're proposing to park.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now, the only question that I have, so I just want to ask you this, and, it may sound like a stupid question, but, there's a point to it. Now, looking at the picture, it looks like, I'm not sure what model it is. It might be a Model Y Tesla, but the thing is, it's not a really big car. And it's pretty much close to the garage door. Maybe there's a foot between it. And then when you look at it, in the back, there's maybe only a few feet, to the trunk, to the sidewalk. And, again, that not being a very big car, my only concern is, and you guys have, gotten away with it because, it's a rather, not a very long space, but, I have a Ford Expedition. Now, if I bought your house and I parked my Expedition, it'd be sticking out halfway on to the sidewalk. So the thing is that my concern is that, the variance is gonna, in that parking spot is gonna run with the land, it's gonna run with the house. And I would only be concerned, and again, I applaud you wanting to take care of, your mom. I have an elderly mother I take care of. And the thing is, I just express my only concern is that what if the house is sold and someone with a big car, they're going to think that because it's a legal parking spot, they can come in and, they can park their car in that driveway and they're going to be sticking out onto the street. Because that, that 5 feet from 15 to 20 does make a bit of a difference. So, I mean, I would be inclined to grant this, but the thing is, I have a concern. I don't know if it should be granted as as a temporary use variance, as long as you guys own the house. I don't know. I just want to hear from the other members of the board to get some opinions, what they think about the 15. Because I think a lot of times when we approve, a space that's a little bit shy, it could be like 17, 18, 19 feet. I don't remember if we've ever gone down to 15 feet. So, I mean, let's maybe we could hear from some of the other board members. And, if my concern is something that's really not that valid, then, I'll understand that it was just my concern. Any members of the board?
I understand there's a garage there, Rocco, but isn't that a spot that exists? I mean, isn't in front of the garage an allowable?
No, I guess it is. I mean, but I'm only concerned because we're making it legal and it's 15. And when you look at the item of the variance, it's really basically to legalize an off-street parking with a deficient size, because the size is 9 by 20, and we're we'd be allowing a 12 by 15. Now, obviously the 12 would gaining width from the minimum, but that doesn't really matter that much. I mean, as long as you can open the car doors to get in and out. Is the only thing I was questioning was the 15 instead of the 20, if there was a problem with that. So if it's been used, all that time by them, that's fine. I'm just concerned that, if the house is sold, because remember, variances run with the land, and if the house is sold and somebody else buys it, they have a truck or whatever, an SUV, a large SUV like I do, that the thing is going to be sticking out onto the sidewalk, and they're going to say, well, it was a legal spot. Yeah, it was legal for, a smaller car, but it wasn't necessarily legal for somebody with with a pickup truck or an SUV.
Well, I'm all for giving them a temporary variance under temporary condition, as long as they own the house.
Yeah, but they would require them to come back every 2 years, right? As long as they own the house.
But that wouldn't, by doing that kind of scenario, it doesn't go with the land forever. And then Rocco's point comes into play there.
Yeah, well, Rocco's point is good, although it would mean when they sold the house, they'd have to take the bedroom away.
Correct.
Correct. Exactly.
All right. I mean, look, I think it could kind of even come down to an enforcement issue. Let's put it this way. I mean, I was asking a hypothetical question, and I feel for their plight, having had similar plight. The thing is this. I mean, I guess, and Joe, maybe council can verify this or not. If we were to grant this, right, this comes down to a question then of enforcement, right? Because let's just say, I buy their house and I park my Ford in their driveway, and my Expedition is sticking 2 or 3 feet out onto the sidewalk. someone will call the police and that will be enforced, that I'm not, supposed to be on the sidewalk and I will get a ticket, right? So if they sold to somebody else that has a bigger vehicle, and they decide to use that driveway and stick it out onto the sidewalk, that is going to become a subject matter of enforcement. Am I correct?
100% correct. One thing to consider, especially in the city of Long Beach.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't have any more questions on this, and maybe we could hear from anybody in the audience. Robin, any hands raised?
No.
All right, I'll move to grant.
I'll second.
Who seconded the motion?
Dan?
Okay. Case number 3273, application of Joseph and Sarah Mardetsky of 546 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2G off-street parking, 9-113.2H off-street parking size, to remove the garage and new off-street parking in the front yard of 546 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 23, lot 16, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Creighton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Walton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Can I just say thank you very much, and we really, really appreciate it.
Okay. You're very welcome. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Stay warm over the next couple of days.
Thank you, George.
Let me just. Case number 3274, application of 41 Connecticut Avenue LLC, Charles Sino and Laura Cappuccino of 86 Walnut Avenue, Rockville Center, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2H off-street parking size for new off-street parking at 41 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 58, block 103, lot 44, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
All right,
Yes.
folks, the applicants are present.
Dennis, are your
I see
clients
Mr.
on
Kelly.
as well?
Mr. Kelly's there.
Yes.
Oh, no, not good.
No. Off their mic. Could everybody just shut off their mics for a minute and let Mr. Kelly speak?
Hi, Chairman Morelli.
You know what, Dennis, I'm gonna actually turn off, you're on here twice. I'm gonna turn.
Yeah, I
one of
see two
them-
Dennis Kellys.
Okay,
That's the problem.
One
Okay.
is more than enough.
Dennis, could you just shut off both? Yeah, both of your mic. Just maybe shut your microphone off for a second and then just turn it back on again.
How's that? Okay.
still an echo.
Yeah.
Let me. I'm leaving.
Dennis, are you using a headset?
No.
Robin, I think what might work is if he leaves the meeting and then comes back in again, it'll just reset the audio.
Maybe he's too close to the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis, I'm gonna put you back on. Okay, now Dennis, unmute yourself and let's see how it works, if it works. Dennis, unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Better.
Yeah, it's not kicking back here. I'm terribly sorry.
Are your
Hi.
clients on as well?
They're here with me in my office.
Okay, great.
Great. Good evening, Chairman Morelli, Commissioners. Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 01561. Here on behalf of the applicants, Charles Sino and Lauren Cappuccino, owners of 41 Connecticut Avenue. We're seeking variances for off-street parking underneath the home at 41 Connecticut Avenue. The parking requirements require a length of 20 feet. I think as Chairman Morelli was just mentioning concerning the last case, and the width of 9 feet. We're seeking a variance to allow for 19 feet 7 inches in length and 7 feet 6 inches in width. The width is, or the smaller dimension in width than what's required is actually caused by a column downstairs. I submitted 11 photographs to Ms. Lynch earlier today of houses on the block. In other words, the block of Connecticut south of Beach Street, along with one other photo of the interior of the house where we seek to park the car. Mr. Sino and Mrs. Sino are here as a result of a violation served by the city. Once Mr. Sino received the violation, he immediately went to the building department. The violation was for an illegal curb cut. And he hired Mr. Beller and had plans drawn up, and we are now seeking the variance to allow for the off-street parking. I have Mr. Sino here. He's prepared to address the board as well. And we'd be happy to entertain any questions. It really is what they're asking for is within the character of the neighborhood. It's not detrimental to any other properties. It's very consistent with the neighborhood. If you look at the 11 photographs I sent earlier today, the requested variance is not substantial. There's really no other feasible method to try to achieve what they are seeking to achieve here, and that's the parking space in the West End. This is not a self-created hardship. They did buy the house only a couple of years ago, but this is a hardship that pertains to the entire West End. And with that, I'd entertain any questions from the board, or I'd invite.
First question on this. Is there a curb cut there already or no?
There's a curb cut there now, Chairman.
Okay. And the curb cut wouldn't have to be modified in any way, right?
It may have to be widened a little bit. I don't know. It looks good to me, but I'm not, I'm not an engineer or I don't know enough about, curb cuts and stuff.
Okay. And because of the 7, obviously they're like right on the line of being illegal length, but the 7.6 now, depending on where they place the vehicle, is opening that car door going to be a problem?
Right. So it's kind of wide open, so to speak, beyond the column. So I just from a practical perspective, I think you would have to, park at a certain spot. You may be able to pull a car all the way in and open the front door to the vehicle, or vice versa. But the column is in the way. But I don't think it impedes. Given again, to your point, depending upon what you drive, it should not, given the length of the spot, that being the 19 feet 7 inches, it shouldn't impede getting in and out of the car.
Okay, well, that's fine then. Are there any members of the board that have any questions?
Nope.
All right, Robin, is there anyone with a hand raised?
No.
All right, I guess I'll move to grant.
Case number.
I'll second that.
Pass it on? Okay. Case number 3274, application of 41 Connecticut Avenue LLC, Charles Sino and Laura Cappuccino of 86 Walnut Avenue, Rockville Center, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-113.2H off-street parking size for new off-street parking at 41 Connecticut Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 58, block 103, lot 44 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
I'm sorry, Grant, I had the mic off.
No worries. This application has been granted.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome, folks.
Welcome.
Case number 3275, application of Emily Corzell of 48 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance on the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, 9-105.5D side yard, for a new front yard porch and south side stairs at 48 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 262, lot 39, on the Nassau County Land and Tax map.
Okay, is the applicant present? Ms. Frizell,
Yes, I
right?
have Ms. Corzell here. I'm hoping I have her husband, just recently married, Matt McBride. Matt, are you there?
I see him here, Dennis. Just give
Great.
1 minute. And Ms. Corzell is with you?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, hold on.
Now, who's Marco Colina?
No, hold on. Matt, okay. Hold
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
on. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. McBride. Dennis, do you want to
evening.
present,
Yes,
you want to
please.
present the case or have your applicant, your client speak?
I'll go first quickly, and then I'll
Yeah, go ahead.
be happy to have Matt speak. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here on behalf of Emily Corzell and her new husband, as opposed to her old husband.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They both reside at 48 Arizona. They've submitted a permit to the building department seeking to do interior alterations, and along with the interior alterations, they're also seeking to put a new front porch on the home, and they're seeking variances both for the front of the porch, which will be 1 foot from the property line. The facade of the house underneath it will be recessed. There'll be 2 decorative walls on each side of the porch. On the north side will be a staircase that will also be within 1 foot of the property line. And they also are going to have a staircase, I believe it's on the north side of the house, which will eat up the 4 feet required for the side yard setback as well. I've submitted a number of photographs of houses in the immediate area, along with the house itself at 48 Arizona. What they're proposing is pretty consistent with what the zoning board has been allowing since Sandy. I know this is not an elevation. They've been told that they couldn't elevate because they'd have to take down the house. So instead, they're trying to do the best they can with the house and improving the house and making it useful for themselves so they can grow in. So with that, I will entertain any questions, and of the two of them, Matt, we've chosen Matt to be the one who speaks on behalf of the applicant. So if you have any questions, please ask.
Dennis, just want to ask you, so basically, on the one side, obviously the staircase is going to eat up the, the side yard setback. That's on the south side, correct? And then on the front yard, then is basically because like all the other decks, are now going to come to a foot, which is what we usually approve. And that staircase, there's no other way to have put that anywhere else. Is that correct?
No, there's not, Mr. Chairman. I mean, they're looking to obviously, and it's clear from the drawings and the plans, is make the most of the porch, and that's why the staircase has been put into the side yard setback, and there's really no place else to put it, and take the single front door and widen it, and so it's an entrance onto the porch.
Okay.
Actually, the staircase goes to the living room. It kind of bypasses the porch. It's not even, you can't even get
Right.
onto the porch from the staircase. So
That's correct,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leonetti. That's right.
So
Okay.
it's just the stairs and a platform. So it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments from other members of the board? Anybody have any questions?
No.
Robin, any hands raised?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let's see. Okay. Ed, you had your hand raised. Unmute yourself if you want to speak on this particular case. I think he was signed in from the previous meeting, but it looks like he
Okay.
raised his hand again.
Yeah, he
So
might have disconnected. Okay, there's no one else then, I guess. Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to grant.
Okay, anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay,
case number 3275, application of Emily Corzell of 48 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.5C front yard, 9-105.5D side yard, for a new front yard porch and south side stairs at 48 Arizona Avenue, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 262, lot 39, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Leonetti has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Acevedo has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank
Very
you all.
welcome, folks. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, case number 3276. Application of Michael and Wendy Goldstein of 83 Joyce Road, Plainview, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.13C lot area, 9-105.13D building area, 9-105.13F side yard, 9-105.13F1 side yard, 9-105.13K off-street parking for a 3-story with roof deck multiple dwelling with 6 units at 61 Neptune Boulevard, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 175, lot 141, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Dennis G. Kelly, 120 West Park Avenue, Suite 311, Long Beach, New York, 11561. Here along with the applicant, Michael Goldstein, and I think also, Mr. Chairman, we should have Mr. Gallinaro on the call as well.
Okay. Joe, you would just need to unmute yourself when it's ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman. My client, Michael Goldstein, you may remember him. He and I, Mr. Gallinaro, presented a case, I guess about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, on 616 East Broadway, which has turned out to look pretty good and very functional. I'll just let you know that. You can check it out for yourself. This particular property, 61 Neptune, is just around the corner between East Broadway and Shore Road. It's on the west side of the block, right in the middle of that short block. Mr. Goldstein and his wife Wendy are seeking to renovate the 4-family home, which does need significant renovation. I'll let him tell you more about that. And,
Okay.
seeking to do what he's doing.
I just want to, is council on, Mr. Lupo on?
Yes,
Just for full,
yes, I'm here.
yeah, well, for full disclosure, I live right off Neptune, but I'm not near the subject property. I'm about 5 blocks away. So I just want to make sure I don't have to recuse myself from this, do I?
No, if you're not directly affected, 5 blocks away.
No, I'm not. I'm about 4 to 5 blocks on Neptune off of the, closer to Park Avenue. So it's not really my, my neighborhood, but if I need to, I'll recuse.
I don't personally see an issue with it. However, if Mr. Kelly voices some concern, then, obviously.
Yeah, that's why I want to disclose that.
I have my client and I chairman have no objection to you hearing and deciding the case.
Okay, all right,
Um,
and as
if-
always, that would be fair.
If we could just remind everybody to please mute yourself if you're not speaking. We can hear some like cricket noise in the background. It's hard for Denise to take down and it's hard to hear. So if you're not speaking, just please mute yourself.
Okay, will do. We are now seeking variances, a number of them for lot area, building area, 2 side yard variances or 2 different types of side yard variances, and an off-street parking variance. Mr. Goldstein and his wife are seeking to add a 3rd story to 61 Neptune in the process of renovating it, creating 2 one-bedroom apartments on the 1st floor, 2 two-bedroom apartments on the 2nd floor, and 2 two-bedroom apartments on the 3rd floor. We are required to have 11 parking spaces. We are proposing 7. They're truly 7 decent parking spaces. Mr. Gallinaro has done extensive work to make sure they're legitimate and we have turning radius and things of that nature. I'll let Mr. Gallinaro explain the layout, and then I'll have Mr. Goldstein discuss the reasons why he's seeking to do what he's doing.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Go on.
Good evening, Chairman Morelli, Commissioners. It's Joseph Gallinaro, 143 East Park Avenue, the architect for the project, here right now to walk you through some of the additions and dormers that we put together for this application. So there was an existing 4 one-bedroom apartment building that had a basement. And what we are trying to do here is create in the basement, we have taking out the first, I would say roughly 10 feet of the basement and leaving it open to be accessed from Neptune Boulevard for 2 additional parking spaces that would be somewhat underneath the building. You could see that on the proposed basement plan. These parking spaces are adjacent to mechanical and laundry, and also the main interior staircase that goes up through the building. The first floor is the existing footprint of the building, where you can see there's the 2 bedrooms, the 2 one-bedroom apartments that are on the east and the west side of the staircase. The staircase is on the south side of the building. The second floor, which is mostly existing, we are looking to do an addition to the east and west side of the building, which would give another bedroom to each unit. On the east side, or the Neptune side, we're proposing to post down with columns 3 feet back from the property line that would support this eastern addition. And at the rear of the building, we're interested in cantilevering this back addition so that it wouldn't interfere with any of the existing rear parking. As you go up one more flight into the building, you have the 3rd floor, which is basically the same exact layout as the 2nd floor. Stacking the apartment units makes a lot of sense for sound attenuation and the use of the spaces of spaces that are above and below each other. In other words, putting all the bedrooms above and below each other and the living spaces above and below each other, so that the cycle of the building at nighttime when people are sleeping, if someone's up in the kitchen, they're not standing above or below someone who's trying to sleep. And then finally, we have the rooftop access, excuse me, rooftop access for the tenants to be using on the east and the west side, and the center bulkhead area, we're calling it, for storage and just basic storage use. We're basically creating the volume of the building, and I think if you're able to look at the title sheet, we have a little axonometric of the building, where you could see the 2 columns that come down to support the 2nd and the 3rd floors, which would be on the Neptune side. And you can sort of see the cantilever in the back, so that there's parking wouldn't be disturbed by any vertical columns. And then the size of the bulkhead is lined up with the foundation and the structural system as it is now.
So it has an existing bump on the southern facade of the building that we're looking just simply to line up with. All the floor, the head height, is a typical 8-foot tall ceiling heights. We're not looking to create anything overly large, and just trying to enhance the building by creating more parking and giving a nicer space than what's currently there with these small 1-bedroom apartments, where we can have these multiple bedroom apartments that will have on the Neptune Boulevard, will have most likely have views up the boulevard and out into the ocean. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Gallagher, well, two things. The building as it exists at present, how many parking spots are there now?
5.
Okay. And can you discuss, you talked about a rooftop area for the residents. Can you describe that for us, please?
Sure. The rooftop area is just a simple, the footprint of the building itself. It just used for outdoor space, since we're tight on private outdoor space here in the city. So the idea is to put the yard on the roof, essentially. But it's more or less just an open space for hangout. There's no amenity up there in particular. There's no, barbecues or anything in that nature to try to set up a party atmosphere. It's just a simple place for the people to walk outside.
How do you get up to that space?
The interior staircase goes all the way up to that area, to that rooftop. And there's what we're calling a bulkhead up at the top. And you would walk out from the staircase into the bulkhead, and then from the bulkhead out into the outdoor space.
How tall is the bulkhead?
The bulkhead itself is a story. So, a full height of 8 feet, 8-foot interior walls.
Okay.
So, yeah. So you can, walk out there freely.
Now, for the record, where is the bulkhead located relative front to back in the building?
It's central. It's very central. The building's split up into thirds. So the center third would be where this bulkhead is located.
Now, since the bulkhead is in the center of the building, when you're walking along Neptune or, neighbors behind it, is it kind of hidden, or, is it going to really be visible? How visible is it going to be?
It's very hidden, being that it would be back towards the center of the building. As you were walking past it, you would be difficult to see, if you could see it at all, if you were on the Neptune side on the sidewalk, but from across the street, maybe you would be able to see it.
Now, what kind of barrier or railing is there around the recreation area? Or
It's a solid wall. So it looks like it's a solid. So it looks like the face of the building just is a little bit, it would be just basically grabbing the face to the sides of the building, extending them up a little bit higher.
There's a tremendous area surrounding the actual bulkhead. What's all that space where you have the 2 pairs of sliding doors?
That's for storage right now. It's sort of like in development, but that's storage. And the area itself is predicated on the footprint of the foundation down. So instead of trying to internalize the structure, I'm hoping to use the perimeter and the existing foundation walls to support at least the north and south sides. And then there's a little return on the east and west side that would go down and be sitting on top of the existing foundation.
I'm not seeing a height denial here. Is this within the zoning area's height?
Yes, it is. We do not this area has a 70-foot tall allowance. So, we're way below that.
How many actual apartments are there right now?
4.
And now you're going to how many?
6.
That's not substantial.
I'm sorry?
That's not a substantial variance.
I didn't say, I'm sorry if did I say this is not a substantial variance?
Well, isn't that one of the things we have to consider if it's,
If I may, Commissioner Leonetti, yes, it's definitely one of the things you need to consider. But substantiality is relative to the residence district and what's allowed, what's not allowed. I mean, I'll leave it up to your discretion, but there's plenty of multiple dwellings in that neighborhood. Are real issues are relative to the size of the lot.
Mhm.
And adding the two apartments. However, relatively speaking, given what's allowed in the district and what's in the district, I don't know if you would consider it substantial. Again, I'd leave it to your discretion.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, are you finished?
Yes, yes, I am.
All right. I mean, I'm being presumptuous. There might be other commissioners who want to ask you questions, but I just saw a moment of silence there for a second.
No, go ahead. I'm just holding it open for other questions from the board.
Right.
No other question?
I can let, if the commissioners have no other questions, Mr. Chairman, I can have Mr. Goldstein talk for a moment about his motivations, what's going on.
Okay, go ahead, please. Mr. Goldstein, you want to speak?
Yes, Michael Goldstein.
Your
Address 83 Joyce Road, Plainview, New York, 11803. Hello. Hi. Thank you for taking the time to hear this case today. So, reason why I want to do the renovation. The building is approximately 70 years old, and while I've done some map updates, if you look at the other buildings of similar of this area, like on Neptune Boulevard, I try to add more aesthetically pleasing to the area, like the little fence on the front, to try to add more curb and character appeal. This building doesn't present itself well to the community as a whole. If you look at this, they have this photo, right? If you look at the photo over here, this was a brick building. You know, it's definitely, you know, seeing quite a bit of age relative to the buildings on the south of mine and north of mine. And I think aesthetically pleasing, it would be, you know, great to the area. And I really take pride in myself to have quality construction. I feel like the building definitely, you know, needs, you know, some additional TLC. I know that, and I've seen my costs, you know, go up, you know, year over year with repair costs and different things, you know, to that effect. I think doing a good, solid, you know, renovation to all these units will definitely help make it so that, you know, long-term costs will stay in line, and I won't have these, you know, repetitive short-term costs. You know, having a handman come, you know, here and there to fix things could be quite, you know, costly over time. And I think taking care of all this, you know, one shot will definitely, you know, do, you know, right and justice. Taxes, you know, I know are, you know, going to go up and plan to go up. And I think, you know, having these extra 2 units will help spread the costs over a longer period of time. You know, even more so, I'm trying to create affordable housing and keep my rents, you know, actually below market. And the reason why I want to do this, because I never want to feel like any of my tenants have to feel like they have to leave because, you know, rents keep going up and up and up. I know we've seen a lot of rents go up over the past couple of years as more people have come, you know, to Long Beach and joined the area. And I'm really taking pride. I kind of keep my rents kind of in line, and in some cases, you know, below market rent. And having these extra units will help to make sure that I won't be in that position as I have to do, you know, additional renovations to increase costs. I've had, you know, some of my tenants have turnover because they said that, you know, the units were just too small. You know, they're as with growing families, and I really like the idea of kind of having that, you know, someone could be here for, you know, as long as they, you know, truly want to be here. More of my tenants, and I've seen they're working remotely. I've had, you know, a prior tenant of mine, you know, told me they had to leave, you know, again, due to space. And I see more people having their offices, and I feel like having this additional, you know, bedroom area on the second floor, you know, will allow, you know, to kind of create that more of a long-term housing and housing stability, which I think is really necessary, you know, for the area. You know, as we all know, there definitely is, you know, again, housing shortages, which we're going to see more and more as we come to, you know, the springtime. You know, if you start looking at the Zills and Trulias and all those other internet websites. Sometimes spring and summertime is going to be very hard to find housing, and I like to say, again, I take quality and that kind of housing I provide to my tenants. I feel like it's a reflection on me, and I want to do them justice and myself and kind of have this great appeal. The fact is, I know we're talking about the rooftop access. I like to have tenants to have a little bit of outdoor space and accessibility, and I think that'll be great, great area. One thing which I'm gonna sorry.
Take your time.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm
Go
gonna
ahead,
let Mike
Scott.
catch his breath for a second. I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
you okay?
Let me just, while he's getting himself together, I'm gonna go through a couple of the legal points. So I would respectfully suggest to the board that what's being proposed is not out of character with the neighborhood, especially since it's Residence L, which does, to Commissioner Leonetti's earlier question, does permit multiple dwellings, obviously some rather large multiple dwellings. It's not detrimental to nearby properties, although we fall short of the required 11 parking spots for the 2 additional 2-bedroom apartments. We are providing 7 off-street parking spaces, which for the neighborhood is pretty good too. If you're in the immediate area of Neptune Boulevard, you have to kind of like look in the back of buildings. There's buildings that do have parking, like Mr. Goldstein does at 61 Neptune, but there's quite a number that don't have parking either. Like for instance, 571 East Broadway, which is just north of a couple of houses north of 61 Neptune, which has no parking at all, and that's a 4-family house.
Mr. Kelly, if I may, because you're touching upon the parking, how many parking spots are there now?
5, Mr. Gallinaro said, Commissioner Acevedo.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, listen. Obviously it's a critical point. Mr. Goldstein, when he purchased 61 Neptune, the first thing that he did was apply for a permit from the building department to pave and create a driveway on the south side of the property. You'll see it in the pictures that I submitted along with the application. There's 3 different views. There's the south side, the north side, and obviously the front of the building. I may even have taken a picture of the back as well. So he created that spot just to make it easier to come in one driveway and out the other, though that's not the way it was before. Mr. Gallinaro and Mr. Goldstein and I bandied about how to come up with maybe 1 or 2 other parking spaces, either trying to use that left, what I call left or south side of the property, or even perhaps underneath the house, because we have 5 parking spaces in the back, and we have, and I think Joe mentioned this, in the two parking spaces underneath the building from the front. We might, and we can possibly make an additional parking space or 2 underneath the house. They would be tandem on both sides, but there's enough space for us if we moved a couple of things around, according to the earlier discussions that Joe and Michael and I have had. But we're also trying to stick with the legitimate parking that is safe and works, and that's why we have 7 and not 9 that we discussed perhaps proposing to the board. The variances, some of them could be easily deemed substantial. But that is by virtue of a lot of these issues being pre-existing. So for instance, we have, 5,000 square feet where 40,000 square feet are required. That would make almost all the homes in the immediate area, non-conforming to variance codes. However, the addition of two apartments on that house, again, to my point earlier to Commissioner Leonetti, I don't see as being substantial, but again, I defer to your discretion. There are no other feasible methods to achieve what Mr. Goldstein seeks to achieve. I think it's a matter of renovating the building, and in the process, it's probably cost effective and cost efficient to add the two additional apartments. It also, like he says, some that, you know, we've discussed before the board, is it does create new, better housing. So I don't think there's any other feasible method to achieve what he's seeking to achieve. And he has the example of 616 East Broadway, if you want to look at the work he's done and how accommodating and pleasant it looks and non-imposing and clearly non-detrimental. There also is no self-created hardship here. He bought the building, he's been working on the building, he's just looking to make the building better and more attractive. So that's my presentation on legal issues. I will let Mr. Goldstein, if the board doesn't mind, just finish his last thought. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My long-term goal is to move to Long Beach. I love the area. I've been coming with my son, for the past several years now, and my wife, and really enjoying the community, the boardwalk, and the atmosphere. Having the pizza trips to Gino's, and my son made sure to say, let me know, make sure I bring back a slice, actually a pie, a Sicilian pie over there, and really enjoying the whole community. Recently, I'm trying to accelerate these plans. Unfortunately, I had a little hardship. My father passed away a couple months ago, and I really have kind of taken a step back and really need to focus, because I've been working so hard to make these buildings so great, but I want to make sure also focus on myself and making sure I could get to enjoy everything that I'm creating. And my long-term goal within the next 5 to 10 years is really to move out to Long Beach, and having things all central in the area is really the goal. And I kind of really actually want to live in the my goal is actually to live in one of the upper units. That's where I really would like to do. And now's probably not the right time because of the cost of me quite extensive. I'm trying to kind of recoup some of this cost, but that's my goal is to move with my family over here and really get to take a step back and kind of as you say, smell the roses, because you never know when your time's going to be up. And that's where I had to stop a minute, because it's very fresh and raw. Sorry.
Okay.
So
you have a thought you want to fish? Or you're good.
No, I want to really look forward to the opportunity, kind of making the area look better. I mean, again, I really take pride in having quality construction, and I think this building as a whole is really somewhat of an eyesore to what I think that the area really needs and deserves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Obviously, we're here for any questions or comments.
Any members of the board have any questions?
I just have a comment. I like Mr. Goldstein's attitude regarding the neighborhood and the ideas to try and create a place where people would want to live for a long period of time. I think he really does show a great passion for what he's doing. I am concerned about adding any more parking grief to that neighborhood. Anybody who hasn't lived around there hasn't experienced Long Beach parking. So that's that's the two comments that I have.
Well, yeah. Anyone else?
For me, it's the parking. Also, I was just there yesterday for another reason in that neighborhood, and it took me even during a weekday a hard time to find something to park in. So I think that you're adding 2 apartments, which could be probably 4 spots, sometimes more if there's guests, and I don't think it's proportionate. But I'm not looking at the finances. I don't understand why you couldn't just renovate 4 beautiful apartments as is and make it financially possible too, but I've not seen the numbers.
Is there any way that this could have been achieved without increasing the size? I mean, the building, as Mr. Goldstein says, does look a little, weathered. And if the building were to be completely renovated, I mean, down the road could not, and as he said, tenants move in and out because the spaces get too small for them. So, I mean, if the building were completely renovated and tenants moving out because the space was still too small for them, wouldn't he be able to get higher rents with the new tenants coming in?
I think so.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, what you're suggesting is, I guess in line with what Commissioners Leonetti and Alton said, and that is make the existing apartments bigger. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm not necessarily saying that. What I'm saying is that, Mr. Goldstein, to his credit, I mean, he's provided, let's say, affordable rents, right? And what's affordable is who knows what. But the thing is, my question is that, with the escalating costs and taxes that we're all paying, I certainly sympathize with him that, he needs to up his income from that building. But my question to you is, right now he said that people have moved out of that building because the apartments might be a little too small. But that's okay. And I'm sure they're also paying rent because they're living in an older, perhaps less attractive building that would command a higher rent. So my question is, if he were to go ahead and make a nice renovation of that building, I'm playing devil's advocate here, and make a nice renovation of that building without increasing size or anything else, I mean, those tenants are going to move out anyway because the space is too small for them. So I'm assuming they're probably younger people or single people or people that, don't have the need for a bigger apartment. But since the building's now been renovated and it's in nicer condition, it's going to command higher rents. So as those people are moving out, they're going to be replaced with higher leases. I mean, I've seen this all over town. When some of these older little garden apartment buildings are cleaned up and they're fixed up and people move out of them, the new tenants certainly aren't paying what the old tenants were paying. And I know that for a fact. So my question was that basically, could this not be achieved by a renovation of the building in terms of increasing the income? Does it have to be by increasing the density necessarily? That, just as I said, playing devil's advocate on the finances, because we really haven't seen any finance about how much the building generates versus what it costs to run.
Go ahead. All right, just to make a comment on that. Unfortunately, there's a very tight window of an appetite where tenants are looking to pay, in rent overall, because from what I've seen. So take a one-bedroom apartment. If it's not renovated, might get a rent roll of $1,800 to $2,250. A renovated apartment might get, 2,600, 2,500. But it's a very, very small gap. So if you're talking about like a renovation, which could cost upwards of $50,000 to $75,000, as it's very hard to find a contractor. The cost of supplies and materials have gone up. With the cost of inflation, it's very hard to make it a financially, feasible objective. And now with the rising interest rate, where I get my borrowing costs is using home equity lines of credit and business lines of credit, it's attached to the prime rate. So if Fed's talking about raising rates 1, 2, and perhaps more, it's going to further drive the cost to actually do that type of renovation. So only to make it economically feasible for me to do it would need the additional units, because I could spread the cost over a greater amount of units. And the way it seems like right now, we don't know when costs are going to get in line. So if the Federal Reserve keeps raising these rates, my borrowing costs cost more for the smaller, not small, but I'm not going to refinance. I'm not going to refinance my whole entire house for, let's say, $150,000. The closing costs would be, $25,000 or $30,000. It wouldn't make financial sense. So I would get a home equity line of credit, but the cost to capture that could take 15, 20 years if I'm getting an additional maybe $300 more a month. So it just does not.
No, I appreciate that, but the question that I'm asking though too is if you're, as long as we're talking about interest rates, I mean, when interest rates go up, generally, mortgage rates go up, and generally less people are able to buy houses. So that also favors a stronger rental market. So the thing is, if interest rates are going up, less people, the reason why a lot of people were buying homes is because the rates were cheap. Now that the rates go up and people start buying less homes, that's going to drive up the cost of the rental market. And right now, the rental market in Long Beach is very hot. And I mean, I don't know if I'm going to disagree with this, but I mean, I know of people that are looking at apartments right now, studios, one bedrooms that are basically dumps on Broadway, and they're looking, to to pay $2,300. They're asking for 700 credit scores, all kinds of stuff. So right now it is a renter's market, and I think it's going to continue to be that. So I think that even with the number of units that you have, basically they're still going to be able to command good rents, even just on a renovation, without having to increase the square footage of the building. I mean, and that's just my observation from looking at the real estate market around here myself. So I don't know. Are there any other comments from any members of the board before we open this up to the audience? Okay, Robin, any hands raised?
Yeah, there's a few.
Okay, well, let's get them going then.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Collender, please unmute yourself.
Okay, good evening, Chairman Morelli and commissioners of the zoning board. Can everybody hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Penny Collender. My husband and I reside at 89 National Boulevard for over 30 years. And I'm appearing this evening to talk on behalf of my mother, Mrs. Susan Collender, who is a co-owner along with Mr. and Mrs. Michael Lowenstein of 81 Neptune Boulevard. This is in fact the adjacent home to 61 Neptune Boulevard. They have resided in the city of Long Beach for over almost 30 years. And I object on 3 different levels. First, they never received proper notice in this matter. And so I am respectfully requesting an adjournment from any decision-making tonight. I only learned of this from a concerned neighbor who was aware of this request for variance by Mr. and Mrs. Goldstein, who are owners of 61 Neptune Boulevard, but do not reside in the city of Long Beach. So I am first requesting an adjournment tonight because Mrs. Susan Collender did not receive notice by either certified mail or regular mail about this important legal matter 30 days in advance of this proceeding that greatly affects the use and enjoyment of her property. Consequently, in the absence of this notice, I believe that they require additional time to examine the application for the variance and consult with appropriate legal counsel who have experience in land use and zoning law, because this variance request will greatly affect their use and enjoyment of their home at 81 Neptune Boulevard, where they actually reside, unlike Mr. and Mrs. Goldstein, who are investors in this community, and it will greatly affect the residents of all surrounding properties. Secondly, I object because this is a substantial variance. It is actually a monstrous multiple dwelling going from 4 units to 6 units with multiple bedrooms. It is architecturally inconsistent with other buildings on Neptune Boulevard. In fact, it is an industrial aesthetic in a residential area. It will affect property values due to the applicant's request specifically to build out to the sidewalk with no setback. It is inconsistent with other buildings on the street where the applicant could have simply built up above the current footprint, but he's made a decision to build out and to add additional bedrooms, which mean additional tenants and additional issues with parking. The shared rooftop deck is completely inconsistent with other buildings on the street. Nobody has a rooftop deck. Clearly, that is going to become an issue with parties and noise. And finally, and most importantly, for the entire community of Neptune Boulevard and surrounding areas, it is going to exacerbate an already serious density issue. Neptune Boulevard, as you all know, is an approach both to the beach and the easternmost part of the Long Beach Boardwalk. It is impossible to park on this street right now with the current number of tenants that reside on the street and visit this area to enjoy our beach and boardwalk. There's a large volume of pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles that use Neptune Boulevard each day, and building these additional units and this monstrosity, because it is not consistent architecturally with neighboring buildings, will adversely affect this community and people who have lived here for 30 years. And I don't think Mr. Goldstein understands that because he does not actually reside in this area. And so I'm respectfully requesting that no decision be taken today and that Mrs. Susan Collender and Mr. and Mrs. Michael Lowenstein have an opportunity to consult with legal counsel and also have an opportunity to review the application. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Collins. There was someone else who said, Robert? I see a Mr. Cohen.
Yes, you need to unmute yourself, Mr. Cohen.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Cohen, yeah, go ahead.
Name is Peter Cohen. The address is 571 Shore. I am the property directly to the south of the subject property. I have objections on several matters. Most important, I don't think it keeps within the neighborhood. Second most important is parking, which is very difficult. I have parking for myself and my tenants. Our houses are virtually sisters. They look exactly like each other and they were built very similarly. I did renovate my entire building a few years back. I have maintained the 4 apartments. I haven't tried to go any higher than 4. And I seem to be able to maintain my rents and my mortgage and everything else. Of course, taxes and expenses and everything goes up as it does every year, insurance as well. But we're all aware that when you purchase a property, there's a certain return on what you're getting and what the rents are going to be. It appears the owner is not new to the real estate game. So I do believe this is self-created hardship. That's my own opinion. I've been in real estate my entire life. Those are just a few of the items. I don't think that, in my own opinion, as a professional, putting parking and utility underneath a house within a couple hundred feet of the beach is a pretty big mistake. It could, the garages just to the north are always being pumped out, as well as the garages on Pacific Boulevard, as we probably all know. They flood quite a bit, and also on Franklin. So, I mean, while that doesn't affect me having water pumped onto the street, it can be an annoyance to the neighborhood. I also do think that the roof decks, I concur with what my neighbor has said. The roof decks are not within keeping with the neighborhood, and I think the property is just too large. In my own opinion, and I guess we're all entitled to that, the property that the owner has just completed on Broadway, my personal opinion is it doesn't keep within the neighborhood. It doesn't look like it belongs. There are 8 houses on Neptune between Shore and Broadway. 7 of them are just about identical. This is one of them. And changing it to not be within character, I kept the general design of my property and tried to improve it and keep it within the same general size and look. I think this isn't keeping within the neighborhood. So I have been before the board several times. I've had variances approved by the board. And I think the board's always been fair. I don't think this property is in keeping with the neighborhood and in keeping with having 6 families where there's 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Robin, you said there was another hand. Oh, Ivan Guerrero, I see a hand. Mr. Guerrero.
Yes, good afternoon.
Go ahead,
Good
name and
evening.
address,
Good evening.
please.
My name is Ivan Guerrero, and I reside at 79 Neptune Boulevard, Long Beach, New York. I
Go
have
ahead,
been
Mr. Guerrero.
living at Neptune Boulevard 79 right next door since the year 2003, so it's approaching 20 years. And so my windows look directly over to the subject premises. And I've met Mr. Goldstein. He's a very nice fellow, and he has been doing plenty of renovations to the apartments, and I understand that he's been raising rents. And of course, he's a businessman, and certainly to want to make the building look better aesthetically would be pleasing to the neighborhood. As Mr. Cohen did say, and I saw his construction over the years, he's done a very fine job because it's essentially the same building, same footprint. And I would love for Mr. Goldstein to consider that type of renovation, and he could certainly have very nice rents instead of adding another floor, the rooftop deck, having the six dwellings there. And Mr. Goldstein, if he really did like Long Beach, he would understand the importance of keeping this particular neighborhood, which, as Mr. Cohen pointed out, is the gateway to the boardwalk. He certainly would not want to build this type of building. I did see his building go up. I pass it every day at 616 East Broadway, and that does not look aesthetically pleasing at all. And certainly, if that's an indication of what this is going to look like, certainly that's going to change even the character of Neptune Boulevard, especially between Shore and Broadway. I believe that all those dwellings there, those buildings, are for families. And certainly that would be way out of character for that, for the small block there. So I know that Mr. Marco Kalina, he is the owner of 79 Neptune. I believe he is on here as well, but I've been his tenant, just to put it for the record clear that I don't own the building, but I have been there almost 20 years. And I have not seen any great changes to the buildings there. The one change that I did see was Mr. Cohen's, but again, he made it very, very nice. He maintained it 4 apartments, and he did not put another floor. And certainly that we'd be very pleased if Mr. Goldstein would consider to model that type of renovation if he really wants to improve the neighborhood. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Was there another hand? Oh, no.
No other hands are raised.
Okay. Well, certainly in light of the other neighbors' comment about them not getting proper notification, assuming that's correct, I don't think it would be appropriate for us to have a vote this evening on the case. And I think that the case is going to need to be basically referred to next month for voting.
We didn't expect a vote, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. All right, very good. So any other comments? Otherwise, the case will remain open until voting.
No, we're Mr. Gallinaro and Mr. Goldstein and I are going to do some further conversation concerning the comments made both by the commissioners and yourself, Mr. Chairman, and obviously concerning the neighbors' input as well. And if we come up with any other ideas, we'll be sure to forward them on to Mr. Lupo and the board and Ms. Lynch. Thank you. Thank you.
And you're ready to call the next case then.
Case number 3277, application of Kevin Hanrahan of 331 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2D rear yard for new rear yard deck at 331 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 140, lot 49 on the Nassau County land and tax map. Let's see.
Okay, the applicant's present.
Yes. You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay. All right, sir. Go ahead. You want to present your case?
Yes, I just wanted to put a deck off the back.
Kevin, you have to give your name and address for the record.
Yeah. Apologize. Kevin Hanrahan, 331 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York. So I wanted to put a deck off the second floor of the house, out 10 feet, the width of the house. Behind me is a parking lot, and to either side of my backyard is garages that go full length to the end of their property. So it's not really in anybody's way. And I believe it's only 2 feet longer than what would be required. Hello?
Rocco, I think you're muted.
Am I still?
Yeah, Rocco, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm still muted.
No, no, you're better than
Now
now.
we can hear you.
Okay, all right. It's a new computer, and I don't know why the button keeps sticking on me, to click on the mouse. All right, so now, we're talking about like a rear yard variance that basically is going to give you 13.1 feet. Is there anything else going on other than this in the house?
Yes, we took out building permits to do a renovation to turn a two-family to get a CO of a one-family, to use it as a one-family. So we
Okay,
updated the kitchen, the bathrooms.
This started out as a two-family, and we're using it as a one-family. I'm just trying to look at. I'm just trying to get some other views of the property. I'm sorry, while we're speaking.
Yeah, so we moved a couple walls. We moved the kitchen to the back of the house. Some interior renovations, and we wanted to add the deck on the second floor in the back, and that's where we're at now.
Okay. Do any members of the board have any questions on this case?
I do, only because I can't see the dimensions on it. How deep is this deck? How wide is it?
So it's 10 feet from the house to the back, and then the width of the house that I believe is, well, it's going to be a little bit small, so it's going to be like 24 feet wide.
Would you be opposed to making an 8-foot deck? I mean, it would still need a variance.
So my biggest thing was I want to have it covered, for below it, so that I could have a waterproof area outside underneath the deck, and that I wanted to get the 10 feet if it was possible.
So would you not have an 8-foot waterproof area underneath it if it was? I mean, I don't understand what you mean, but you wanted the waterproof area. Is there a 10-foot current? Like,
Yeah, well, right now there's a 10-foot deck there.
Okay.
And it just went with the plans that I didn't know until the last minute that it was going to have to go through the zoning board.
Okay.
And then I figured I would go through it and see how it goes. Because I would like the 10-foot if it's possible, but if it's not, I can do 8. I think it would be nicer to have a bigger area underneath.
You're going from a depth. You're leaving. What's the setback after the deck is done at 10 feet? You still have what?
So there'd be 13 feet left over. 13.9 or something like that.
So you're still close to 15 feet. Since it's the back of your house, I think it's I think this is fine. And you've got 2 garages both sides and a commercial building over the backyard, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So it's commercial behind you?
Yeah.
The commercial. It's a parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only accessed from in the house. There's no steps down to the backyard.
Yeah, no steps or anything.
Kind of no real impact on anybody else around.
When you're converting 2-family to 1, which is reduced density, which is always helpful. So
that's a first.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean,
absolutely.
That's a reverse problem that we're having.
We should allow some credit for that, I think.
Yeah.
You want a 30-foot deck? Only joking.
You're
I'll take it.
Any other comments? Anybody want to speak from the audience?
There are no hands raised.
All right. I'll move to grant.
I'll second the motion.
Case number 3277, application of Kevin Hanrahan of 331 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.2E rear yard for a new rear yard deck at 331 East Walnut Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 140, lot 49, on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Chairman Morelli has introduced a motion to grant the application. Commissioner Alton has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant.
Chairman Morelli.
Yeah, Grant.
This application has been granted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Case number 3278, application of Danny Monaghan of 654 West Chester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.3B height for a roof deck with the first and second floor additions at 654 West Chester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 12, lot 113 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
The applicants are present.
Yes, they need to unmute themselves.
Hi, good evening. It's Joe Gallinaro. I'm the architect. I'll be presenting the case for Mr. and Mrs. Monaghan this evening. 143 East Park Avenue, Long Beach, New York. Good evening. The applicants are interested in building on the first floor. The house has a little leave out in the back right corner that they're looking to square off. And on the first floor, there would be a study and a powder room. And that would square off the back and the right-hand side of the house. And on the second floor, it would be to enlarge closet space for a master bathroom and for the master bedroom to enlarge the area there. And which also, a client is interested in having an interior staircase that would lead up to a proposed rooftop deck. The height variance is only related to the staircase, the hall staircase that would go up. The deck itself would not require a variance in that the railing is below the overall height that is allowed in this area. That the railing of the deck would be under 25 feet, in other words. The extra height comes into play when we have the introduction of a staircase, an interior staircase that leads only from the master bedroom, actually the inside of the master bedroom closet, up into the rooftop deck. This deck is roughly 12 by 17 feet in overall size, and would only be used after someone was to go through the master bedroom. So in other words, this is a very private deck. It's not off of a living room or a dining or a den or something like that, where the public of the inside the house would be going up and through to get on top of. So it's a small deck that would be used by the Mr. and Mrs. Monaghan for their own personal use. We had entertained staircases on the outside of the house that would be bracketed off the rear of the house at the second floor that would lead to a rooftop deck again, which would be as of right. But the clients were concerned for having, they just didn't feel safe with the idea of climbing a spiral staircase outside of the door from their closet up on the side of the house, 15 or so feet above the ground to get to the rooftop deck. So the introduction of this interior staircase was discussed and decided upon by the clients that this is the direction that they would like to try to go in. Other than that, there are no other variances required. Everything is sort of squared off for the house, as mentioned before. It just happens to be this access to a rooftop deck. Does the board have any questions?
Okay, so just to, for the sake of the record then, Joe, at this point, basically, what would the height have been without it? Basically,
it would match the existing height of 24.9 feet.
Okay.
So without it, we would not be, if it wasn't here, if we were doing the staircase, if they were comfortable with the staircase, on the outside with the spiral staircase on the outside, going from the second floor to the rooftop, we would not be presenting to the board this evening.
Okay.
Joe, you
And
meant, go ahead.
go ahead. Okay.
Joe, you mentioned earlier, we understand that you have to go through the master bedroom. So how do you get from the master bedroom onto the deck?
Yes, sir. So you get into the main, you go, from the ground floor, you go up the main staircase that leads to the other 2 bedrooms in the hallway.
Yeah,
You
once you're
Mhm.
in the master bedroom, how do you get onto the deck?
So you're in the master bedroom, you walk into what is the walk-in closet and heading towards the bathroom in the back of the house. And inside the walk-in closet is the staircase that goes up.
That's what I thought you said, and I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, how much does the new bulkhead, extend above the existing peak of the roof? It doesn't look like too much.
It doesn't. If you look on A200 drawing 3, the height of the house is at the top of the. I'm sorry. Did you say the bulkhead above the ridge?
Yeah, it looks like
Okay.
it looks like about 3 feet above the peak of the roof.
Yeah. So correct. Just right around 3 feet, just shy of 3 feet.
Yeah. Okay. And you already addressed that there's no other reasonable way to get the staircase up there. Huh?
Well, there were none that was acceptable by the clients because the one that was introduced, which had this spiral staircase suspended off the rear of the house, didn't feel safe to them.
What's the height of the door coming out of the bulkhead?
80 inches.
Which is
6'8".
6'8". Okay.
Just a normal height.
Yeah, well, yeah, if it was like 7 foot, I would have said bring it down a little bit, but
right.
6'8" is more.
I mean, we could, a 7 foot head height up there to get out. Would still work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be much of a hardship, I don't think.
No.
So maybe you could find a foot or.
Yeah, I think so. 22. Yeah, I think we could probably find a foot in there for sure. I'm looking at the elevation that shows the door and window and the roof above it. So we could probably bury the header in the roof system and bring the roof down a foot. Give or take.
Yeah, I think that would be positive.
That would help.
Okay.
That would drop it to a 7 foot, 1.5 inch variance.
Right, and only about 2 feet higher than the existing peak of the roof.
2 feet.
That's the only question I have, Rocco.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anyone speaking in favor or against?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. All right. So does anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion with the amended plans.
Okay, I'll second that motion for grant with amendment.
To grant.
Basically a condition that we're going to be able to bring the bulkhead down a foot. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
You're gonna lower the bulkhead down 1 foot?
Yeah.
Okay. Case number 3278, application of Danny Monaghan of 654 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following section of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-105.3B height for a roof deck with first and second floor additions at 654 Westchester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 12, lot 113 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant with conditions. Chairman Morelli has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Creighton,
Deny.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant with conditions.
Commissioner Leonetti,
Grant with conditions.
Chairman Morelli.
Grant with conditions.
This application has been granted with the conditions stated on the record. The bulkhead must be brought down 1 foot.
Thank you very much.
Case number
You're welcome.
3279, application of Lawrence Puzak of 520 East Chester Street, Long Beach, New York, for a variance in the following sections of the zoning code of ordinances of the city of Long Beach, New York. 9-106.12 general provisions, 9-113.2D off-street parking design standards to maintain a camping trailer in the driveway at 520 East Chester Street, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 169, lot 44 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map.
Okay, good evening. I see the applicant is present. Good evening, sir.
You need to unmute yourself, Mr. Puzak.
The applicant needs to unmute himself, Mr. Puzak.
Mr. Puzak, you need to unmute yourself. Can't hear you.
He must have gone away from his desk.
We were on earlier.
Yeah. He's clearly not there now.
We hold it over till next month or?
Well, you guys want to wait a minute or so? And if not, we're going to have to hold it over.
I'll wait 30 seconds.
We have,
I mean, we've been waiting a minute.
Yeah, I mean, we can't just like, I think you're supposed to kind of wait.
Well, I don't know if
Be
this is
ready.
I'll hold off to whatever the policy is or standard if there is one for that.
What does the council say? I mean, what's up? What's the protocol on this?
Well, Mr. Puzak's supposed to be here, but obviously due to the the virtual nature of our meeting, we don't know if he's actually here or not. We just know that his.
I know.
You can see it's muted.
I hate for somebody not to be heard, but we can't just sit around too.
Unmuting is a joke. So.
Robin, is there any other business? Is there any other business to take care of?
we have one administrative extension, an extension for a request of 6 months. So if you
Can
want
we
to
do that
pull
first?
that in, yeah.
And if
Case
he's not
number-
back by the end of that, we're going to have to close the meeting.
Okay, that sounds fair enough.
All right.
Case
Go
number
ahead.
2920, application of Shane Beglighter of 670 West Broadway, Long Beach, New York, for an extension to variance number 2920 in order to elevate an existing 6-family dwelling at 668 West Broadway, Long Beach, New York, also known as section 59, block 18, lot 37 on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Last time the board had granted a 6 months extension. Who will introduce the motion on this application?
Make the motion to grant the extension.
Who will second?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Wanda.
Okay. So Commissioner Acevedo has introduced a motion to grant. Commissioner Brooks has seconded the motion. Commissioner Alton,
Grant.
Commissioner Creighton,
Grant.
Commissioner Acevedo,
Grant.
Commissioner Brooks,
Grant.
Commissioner Leonetti. Oh, Chairman Morelli.
Hello?
Okay, so Mr. Puzak, you're on, but you're echoing. You have to turn off everything else that you have on. Can you
Hello?
hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, you're good.
Say your name.
Give your name and address for the record.
Lawrence Puzak, 520 East Chester Street, Long Beach, New York, 11561.
Okay, Rocco.
Mr. Busak, how can we help you?
We're filing a variance
Go
to have, hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
We're
Give us your
asking
name and address again and let's proceed.
Lawrence Puzak, 520 East Chester Street, Long Beach, New York, 11561.
Okay. Go ahead.
We're asking for a variance to have a camping trailer in the driveway proper. It will not block the sidewalk, and we use it for isolation reasons for COVID.
Can you explain that?
Yep. I
Go
work
ahead.
for the fire department of New York City, and
Yeah.
and my family has concerns that when I come home from work, that I was exposed either through members of the fire department or through civilians.
Yeah.
We've had a couple bouts with COVID already, and I was camping in the trailer in the driveway for isolation purposes.
Well, how long's the camper been there?
Well, it's not here. We moved it. It was there from June to December.
No, I don't understand. So now, did you get a violation or anything for this or no?
Yes.
Okay, so you got a ticket, and what was the ticket for? For keeping a camper instead of an automobile on a driveway?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I guess my question was, so the camper, where was the camper before, it got moved over here?
In
other words, when did the camper get put away in the driveway?
Yeah, June 1st.
Oh,
That's when you,
21.
Is that when you purchased it? Is that when you purchased it, June of 2021?
No, it wasn't purchased then. We were.
So the question is, where was it before June 1st?
It was in Florida.
Okay, and where is it now, please?
Island Park. A paid storage facility.
Where are you isolating now for COVID?
Within the dwelling itself.
So is it still possible to isolate there as, and so you don't need this variance for a camper if you're isolating inside the dwelling?
Is it possible?
I mean,
anything in life is possible. I think my family members have had COVID twice so far. I've had it once.
So does antibodies.
Am I able to speak as well?
Yes.
Who is the other person?
You have to give your name and address for the record.
Sure, Laura Romica.
Okay, go ahead.
520 East Chester Street. I'm the wife of.
Right.
Yeah. So, so we, this whole thing with COVID, we happened to buy this trailer not because of COVID. We bought it for pleasure, and it just so happened that COVID, COVID started, I guess, in March, and then April. At the time, the fire department. This is when it all first started. It was really. And, this is when it first started. Nobody knew about it except that people were getting it. And of course, I kept saying, why don't you go to the trailer, jokingly, because we kept hearing all the men in his fire department were getting, not just the whole fire department, but his house in particular, were falling ill. And then one day, he had the gas tank to mow the lawn. And he's like, what's in here? And I said, that's gas. And he's like, I can't smell that, so that's what started you really need to go to this trailer. And so as it turned out, he tested positive. Several days later, my son and I tested positive. And it was at that point, now you hear about it, you're like, oh, okay, COVID. But then it was petrifying because it just was upon us. And it was not a great experience, to say the least. my son, actually, who was the youngest, they kept saying it's not affecting kids. He had it the worst. He ended up in the hospital. You know, I had that long-term type of thing. And then we opted to go virtual when the school year started. I didn't want any part of this. It was just a terrible, wild ride and a dark time. So I actually relocated, my son and I found a rental down south, and we took the trailer with us, but we also had this place to live in, and that's where we all stayed while he worked over the winter, because I knew he wouldn't survive in the, I don't know, it was just too complicated. So now we're all here. You know, the virtual schooling is not an option, but ironically enough, shortly after arriving home, I got it again. And, you know, and it was, you know, and actually there were two men in his firehouse that he said, oh yeah, so-and-so got it and this one got it. And I'm like, oh God, not again. And lo and behold, I don't know if my blood type is the right or wrong one, but it was like, I'd talk about it, I would catch it. And it's just, you know, we have used it. So then it was over the summer, we had the violations that we went to court to, which was kind of an unusual story, because when we got the violation, we asked with the building department, you know, this is the first time anything we had dealt with. And we, my husband talked to one of the men there, and he said, oh, write an email and you know, I'll send it to my supervisor. So I wrote this letter, and ironically enough, at that time, that's when I tested positive yet a second time, explaining to him, you know, my husband's a captain in the fire department. It's kind of been a safe haven for us. We've been utilizing it, you know, as not, it's not being stored there, where unfortunately it's not a great situation at all. But it's kind of where we are at this point in time in the life. And so next thing we know, maybe it was maybe a month or two after, we get the violation that we needed to go to court. So we never heard back from his supervisor, never heard back from this man. And we were kind of shocked. So long story short, we go to court. We were ready to kind of tell them what our situation was. But in the time that we spoke with the lawyer, the other lawyer, not ours, we didn't get one. In the time we were there, he came to us. He said, "Hey, we'll not dismiss it. We'll you know, just pay us $100 and we'll, you know, whatever." And I'm like, no, actually, I really want to speak to the judge, because you know, I really, you know, we did our due diligence. I wrote that email, and then when I followed up with phone calls, even in once I kind of took it over, my husband made that initial call. And then after that, I kept speaking to this particular man in the building department. And sadly enough, he didn't do what he said he was going to do. He never gave this information to his supervisor, because I ended up speaking to the supervisor eventually. And he goes, yeah, I never got that email, you know. So this kind of took a life we didn't expect. So they're like, well, you know, you can go this route, which was, you know, we'll deny your request to, you know, can we please just, you know, until things get calmed down with the COVID, you know, can we keep this trailer in our driveway? And the trailer is not you know, it does fit. And I did purchase this trailer knowing it would fit in the driveway, because I don't know, we're just a small family, you know, it's just the three of us. And so that's kind of, you know, how this all came about. And it hasn't been, you know, it's not exactly what we wanted, but it did work. You know, we were very thankful we had the trailer when the timing kind of did happen as it did, you know, a lot of people were starting to go that route. And I know there were many people that were like, man, you're lucky you got that trailer, you know, but our house is very small. We have close quarters upstairs, and with COVID, it's almost, you know, it's like you can't really be in that same room living together unless
not?
you're all going to catch it, you know?
No, yeah.
So I don't know. It just, even if, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ms. Romeka. I really empathize with your story. It's a very tough situation, but we do have to ask some questions.
Sure.
So you have this trailer. Have you spoken as far as how long you might keep it for? Or are you thinking of keeping it for as long as you can so that you can travel with it? Have you put any, have you guys spoken about that? And if you have, can you share that, please?
Wait, so what's the question? How long we think we'll have the trailer, you mean?
Yes, like is it something that's going to be an RV for your family for as long as it stands up?
Well, and further that COVID is like coming around the bend. So it sounds to me like you might need it for a month or two, not like for.
Right, and we, right, oh, absolutely. And we were hoping that because in the letter, we were hoping that they would come back and say, you know what, just here's your time frame, as opposed to, giving us, you're right, taking us to court. We were hoping that say, okay, in 3 more, here you got 3 more months, and then we'll reassess. Or we were totally fine with that because, hopefully COVID will, everyone. I don't know. Who knows what the story will be, but it's evolving every single day. Every time you look at the news, it's a new thing. Oh, Omicron is at its highest. And now Omicron is, getting a little better. Our numbers are high, our numbers are low, whatever. So no, we're okay if it was a temporary place that we knew we can have, it doesn't have to be forever. We were just hoping to have it for until we figure out, till the
it's a tough situation. Now, you purchased the RV for pleasure initially.
We did. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was our plan. Right. Right. And we had all intentions of storing it. That was, even though I did buy, my husband wanted to store it, and I was like, well, maybe we'll just see if we could fit in the driveway, because there is a time when you do travel that you kind of need that trailer in your, you need it close to home to fill it up. You need to get it ready and prepped. And, the street is, I wasn't even contemplating putting it in the street. Plus at the time when we bought it, I had a vehicle. It's a smaller trailer. So, and it's lightweight. And we didn't have a truck. So my van, I have a van that was able to pull it. So there was reasons why this trailer was picked, and it was also small enough to fit in the driveway, which was ideal. And
right, so it's a trailer. It's not an RV. It's not motorized. It's a trailer.
Yes, it's a pull trailer. Mm-hmm. And when it sits in the driveway, there is no part of it that extends into the, it's clear. It clears the sidewalk.
Yeah, but the problem is, well, it is an eyesore for your neighbors, number one. Number two, that means you have to put all of your cars in the street. I mean, how many cars do you have? What kind of vehicles are they?
Well, we have a van, and now we have a truck. We do have a truck.
So you're putting a truck on the street then, and a van?
Yes, sir.
That's up to, I think your neighbors would have to give you a lot of support across the block for this to really be fair to them.
Right. Well, again,
have you received any feedback from your neighbors, one way or the other?
Well, so we had some, no, we didn't really get any feedback. Well, you went to the houses. What did they say?
No, the original complaint from the building department was said it was a drive-by complaint, and then they switched the story and said that it was an anonymous complaint.
Yeah. We haven't really gotten a square answer from the building department, so it's kind of hard to. When my husband initially called, he said, no, it was an inspector that drove by and saw it. But but after the court day, we went up to the buildings department, and that's when we met the supervisor. And when he looked at it on the computer, he's like, no. He goes, it looks to me like there was a complaint from a neighbor.
Do you have anything? Do you have anything from anybody medical who says that this special conditions that you're asking for is advantageous to COVID, or it's just your feelings about COVID and things? I mean, it's very hard for us to make determinations on whether something like this makes any sense as far as COVID's concerned. And how much time does your husband not come in for dinner and things like that when the trailer is there? I don't see how we can be asked to make exception for what everybody else in the whole town and the whole country is going through.
Yeah, and to back that up, we've denied this type of a request for other reasons. So it's a tough one. It really is.
Well, not everyone, also doesn't have a first responder spouse. I mean, every family has a different story. And so
you do.
Again,
my daughter's a nurse, and she came home and she washed her hands and stayed in her bedroom. All that stuff.
Listen, I'm a surgeon. I have blood splattering and fluid splattering all over my face every day. And I live in the same house with my family. And there have been family members that have had COVID, and I've had to go to work every day, wear my garb, come home, and I've had fluids and splatter all over me every day for the last 2 years.
All right. That's, again, not everyone that gets COVID has the same result. Not everyone that is a surgeon or a firefighter or a nurse has the same result. So you have perfectly healthy people that don't fare well from COVID, and you have perfectly healthy people that walk away and say it was just like a cold. So I find it, no offense, but I find I'm a little offended because you're not in my body, and you don't know what it's like to maybe have long-term effects.
We can't make medical decisions, man, but
no, I could tell you how I feel.
If you've had COVID a few times, you have an antibody level, and your possibility of getting COVID statistically is much less than people who have not had COVID or people that have only had it once. So we're not qualified. No one is qualified to make these decisions, because even the experts aren't experts anymore. And those of us who are in the medical field, we're exposed to COVID every day. And many of us have had for whatever. But the bottom line is, you're asking us to make a determination on something that, there's no medical evidence here that we can really rule on, and I feel very badly for you. I feel your plight. I mean, I understand. Believe me, I have fear just like you have fear that every day, somebody's fluid or somebody's, droplets are going to land in my face, behind my goggles, behind my gear, and I'm going to bring it home to my own family. We all understand this, and we feel for your plight. But now we have other questions that we have to, address too. So, I'll leave that up to the other commissioners too. I mean, I really feel bad for the story that I'm hearing. This is very sad. Your husband puts his life on the line every day. I get it. And it's very, very sad. Unfortunately, we have to consider a lot of things, and we want to be fair, to you and whatever, the neighborhood and whatnot. But, we appreciate, what's going on here. I mean, we understand that, this is a very serious thing. And, perhaps this trailer does provide some sort of comfort, maybe more mental comfort than anything else, I guess. Medically and statistically, I don't know really, what the validity is. I can't make that determination. I mean, I'm assuming that, it certainly is a feel-good thing. It makes you feel good that you have a place to run and hide. But, because COVID is such an unknown, we don't really know, is the trailer going to be necessary for a month? Is it going to be necessary for 6 months? Is it going to be necessary forever? The problem is, though, is that, eventually COVID is going to end. And the thing is, does then the trailer or any other, conveyance that we allow, is that going to be allowed to remain in perpetuity? I mean, there is precedent because the board has turned down other cases of people looking to store boats or looking to store trailers. And although on a medical, necessity level that you're bringing up to us, we understand your plight. But now I don't know if that, let's put it this way, stands any kind of legal test that we got to vote on for a variance. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we certainly feel bad, and we certainly understand, us having gone through it, and me, being involved in medical care of people, and then dental care, medical cares, surgery, saliva, spit, blood, we get it. We get the fear, and it's every day, 9, 10 hours a day. But the thing is, we have to also look at the legal criteria. This is where the dilemma comes in that we as a board have to look at.
No, I don't even know, Rocco, I don't even know why they put this to the zoning board. I mean, this is not a zoning issue. If they can get a waiver from the city or something like that to occupy this thing for medical purposes, then, maybe that's the route to go. But I don't even understand why this is in front of us.
Well, obviously, because there's an item in the code. If you remember, there was an issue in the canals of someone that had a trailer, a camper. I think it was about a year or so ago, maybe, that someone complained, and there was, enforcement involved. And then they came to the zoning board to, get relief. And unfortunately, that particular case got turned down. So what I'm saying is that I'm not really sure, what, the legalities of us would be in granting a variance if it's something then that goes in perpetuity with the land. I mean, I have to defer to council on this,
I agree. We should defer to council. I don't even see it's something that should be in front of us.
Hey, guys.
Agree.
So basically, right, for every variance, there's a whole set of criteria that we need to, analyze, whether the situation is user created, whether there's an alternative, alternative relief that can be sought, the impact, etc. I mean, here, I think that, Rocco, to your point, there are so many unknowns, and for us to say that, we're going to make this decision and grant this variance because, somebody could get COVID at their job and then bring it home to their families. That's not unique to any one person, really, or any one job, first responders or not. I'm not a first responder. I'm just an attorney, but yet I've had COVID. My wife is a business owner. She's had COVID twice. I really don't see, the criteria being met here, but I mean, that's not my determination to make, that's yours. But in this situation, it just doesn't really seem, it doesn't seem fitting, especially with past precedent, because what happens next? Is everyone in Long Beach going to get a trailer? And then are we going to, is Long Beach willing to, alter their code? I just don't think so. I mean, and also it's really difficult to compare people's experiences from, 2020, before there was a vaccine and before there were antibodies and before we had, just basic knowledge of treating COVID versus today. I mean, it's a different time now in 2022 than it was in 2021 with respect to treating this, but we're kind of getting a bit more philosophical than we need to, because the fact of the matter is this is a violation of the code. And in order to grant the variance, the criteria that is supposed to be considered isn't necessarily in line with what's being presented to us.
Okay.
Well, at this point, I mean, is there anybody that wanted to speak from the audience, or there isn't?
There are no hands raised.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion on the case, or, we want to hold it over, and basically see, if there's any precedent for this. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I think
does
that would be
anybody
a good.
want to make a motion, or do you guys want an opportunity to think about it?
Yeah, I personally wouldn't want to make a motion on it, but I would like to hold it over till next month, just to see, what can be done, or but it's a little bit of a unique situation in its own way. Something to explore over the next
It'll
month.
require a little thought. We've never seen anything like this. Yeah, I agree.
Well, unfortunately, the whole COVID thing has created an atmosphere where, we haven't seen any of this, not even the so-called experts. So the bottom line is, we have two pronged question here. We have a question here that does relate possibly to a medical reason, possibly. But on the other hand, we also have, as counsel said, we have the code of law to deal with. So basically, we're going to have to balance, based on what information we can gather about, medical necessity versus the law. So I'm certainly in favor of holding this over, unless anybody wants to make a motion, but it doesn't seem like anybody wants to. So I would then say this case will be held over and open until vote.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for hearing us out.
Fair, I think that's the fairest answer that we can come to at this point.
So is there something I'm supposed to do between now and you're saying the next zoning board meeting? And is that meeting? Oh.
No. Council, would you be able to advise them on, what the legality is that basically, I believe it stayed until, the board vote on it.
You could put in more information in your case if you had medical a consultant or something and you wanted to add it to the record. You could do something like that. You could add to the record for us to consider before we vote next month.
Yes,
okay.
Any kind of information that you want to provide that would, demonstrate that there's a specific medical need and requirement that the board could consider in, granting a variance in order to accommodate that need. And
it can't be a generality, because the problem is, as counsel, I believe, said, maybe some people are at higher risk, but everybody that walks the streets or gets on a train or whatever, is at risk of getting COVID. And the problem is, unfortunately, everybody goes home to their families, and we don't all have the luxury of that. So it has to be, as counsel said, right? Counsel, has to be a specific medical need in the letter.
Yeah, and everybody's going out you have to go out to the supermarket. I mean, the exposure is just everywhere with this virus. So, I mean, if you have to literally lock yourself in your house and somebody supports it, it's that dangerous for you, then let's think about that.
I mean, even in this situation here, I mean, Mr. Kuczak is the first responder. He's had COVID once. Ms. Ramika, she said she had it twice, and she's not the first responder. So it's, how this is contracted, it's very random. Obviously, it's not necessarily just what we do for a living. It's what and who are around.
Well, hold on, just so you understand, I happen to live with someone who is, a little bit of a denial type of person. And when he got COVID the first time, I even said to him, he walked away like it was an allergy. And he kept saying, I think it's allergies. I'm like, you're something's not right. And he's like, oh, it's an allergy, or, and that's how the COVID affected him, and good for him, but that's not how it went down for myself or my son. And quite frankly, knowing that he happens to be a very healthy kind of guy. Like, I know there's a lot of healthy people, but like, he eats clean, and I don't know, who knows? No one really understands why or how, but he could have had it a second time. Whether or not he's going to get tested, I pushed him to do certain things he refused to do. Like, you can't control what other people do, but it is interesting how things kind of play out. So I don't understand how I got it the second time, and it's mind blowing. Like, I remember afterwards, I just couldn't believe it. And I believe my son had it as well, because he had symptoms before me. I dismissed them thinking he was tired. And then I train girls in volleyball on the beach in the summertime sometimes. And I was going to be with a bunch of girls, and all of a sudden I had his symptoms the night before, but it was when I laid down, I felt something in my chest, and I said, something's not right. And I took the test, and lo and behold, I was positive. And I'm certain he was as well. But again, it's this haphazard, who knows how to understand it. I don't, but there's no rhyme or reason, and there's no rules. And it definitely affects everyone different. Whatever your profession is, yes. But it definitely, not everyone walks away the same from COVID, that's for sure. And
That's what makes it scary, right? It's the unknown, not knowing.
You also could be spreading it before you even know you have it. So I don't know. I don't know if the trailer is going to help it. And I have to ask you, like, how big is your house? Because like everybody said, everybody has had this before. I mean, you know, my wife has had it. I'm severely immunocompromised, yet my wife has it. We just stay in different rooms. I mean, is a trailer going to change it, the separation, or are you guys never going to see each other again? I mean, it's just, I'm saying it's not like in a sarcastic way, but it's not like you're going to be separated forever, and you could be spreading it to each other before you show any symptoms. So I don't think the trailer is going to do anything to resolve this. I think we're talking about it a lot, but I personally don't see the trailer as a solution to what you're using it as for this case. I don't. What you're spreading it before you show symptoms, and unless you're testing multiple times a day, there's no way you could ever be sure whether that trailer is doing anything.
It's true. You know, we really don't know. And all I know is I don't want to repeat, you know, where we were, you know, and if we have the ability to quarantine as best as we can, then for me, that's kind of how if we have it's a luxury. To me, this was a luxury. And and for whatever, you know, it was just something that we were able to do. We were lucky enough to do. That's how I see it. And you know, yeah, that was it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, so we'll do what we can, and thank you again.
Thank you, folks. The case will remain open until voting at this point. Are there any other matters of business?
No, there is no other matters. There's just one person has their hands up. I believe this is.
Yeah,
Mr.
Shane
Goldstein.
Begleiter, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, regarding.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
You heard my case. I hung in there till the bitter end. I appreciate all you do. I wanted to thank you and wish you all a happy new year, and that's all.
Thank you very much, sir. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
You're very well.
All right.
You
Thank you so much.
deserve it.
Thank you, folks. All right. So then I'm going to call a close to this meeting. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending the meeting this evening. Thank you for cooperating with the Zoom platform. I want to thank you all. And Robin, what is the date of the next meeting for anyone who wants to know?
February 24th.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is now closed.
Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Everyone, have a good night.